Hey, thanks, Jupiter, for that introduction, and hello, Dwarka. Welcome to this coffee chat, and really pleasure to have you here as well.
Hey,
Right.
thanks, Shalin. I think the same here. Looking forward to, yeah.
Okay, great. So we'll just delve right into it, right? I just wanted to know more perspectives and more thought process, and regarding your experience as well. So I wanted to start with something that has greatly affected not just the industry or not just the company per se, organization per se, but pretty much everyone in the world. The COVID, right? And considering the theme and considering what we're going to talk about, the operations part of it, right? What I wanted to understand from you on few things related to the governance risk and control on how it has changed, what it has happened, very specific to COVID, like what exactly was something that you would have not done or considered really low risk, not really on your priority or radar, right? And now suddenly because of the COVID, it comes into forefront, it's right there in front of you and we have to deal with it. So we will wanted to know more about what are the risk areas, and also what how was your approach in dealing with it, what exactly did you do, and were you able to mitigate it, how were you able to handle it?
Hey, thank you very much, Shalin, for that. I think before we start, first, hello everyone, and hope everyone is really keeping safe and good. Thank you very much for this particular opportunity and an operations conclave. This is a much needed for the time today and much needed for the even better future as well. Thank you very much. I think the foundation of the organization to me is a strong operation, right? Operation connects everybody, right?
Yeah.
In my broader sense of actually operations to do anything and everything other than business deliverables, right? A bit an HR operation, site operations, or a business operations, right? Or an IT operations and all this kind of stuff, right? I think the operation is a critical function mainly because we kind of enable the organization, right? Both from optimizing the opportunities that exist and also a critical function in mitigating the risk. So from that actually context, yes, the operation plays a very, very vital role. And specific to my response to you on the COVID related stuff, right? I think the risk parameters and the risk assessment, how we handle the risk, all of those things actually what exist even prior to COVID, right?
Yeah.
If not all, at least most of it, right, actually exist. I think what brought the COVID situation is basically the speed, the size, the scale, the duration of the pandemic, the uncertainty actually about what is next, right? What action we need to take and what is going to actually happen. That I think probably the biggest thing that most of us were actually caught unaware of, right? So that's something that, so to me, is the fundamental thing that actually happened during the COVID time, right? Just to give an example, we all actually had the plan of work from home, for example, right? But most of the times we only
Yeah.
had like maybe 10% of the population, 20% of the population work from home. Imagine a situation where in which we have to make everyone work from home, right? That's the biggest change.
Yeah.
We had a lot of BCP plan, right? For about, yeah, we assume probably a day or a 10 days or a week or something like that. We never imagined, right, that most people going to work from home or a work from home environment for almost like close to 18 months, right? And look at the other aspect of the responsiveness that is needed, right? So the speed at which we have to respond to the each situation is so dynamic.
Yeah.
The agility that is needed for that, right, was one of the critical step, right, that was needed. And I think most people frankly approach, right, very pragmatically and very rightly. I think probably I think it's an opportunity for us to thank each one of those leaders who really made everything actually successful, not just from the organization perspective but also from the people perspective as well, right? So that's how I actually see how this pandemic changed our risk profiles, right? The size, the scale, the duration, the environment, and it's just not us. It's the whole ecosystem change that actually happened, right?
Yeah.
So if
Yeah.
that gives some thought to you.
Yeah, and that's a very interesting point and a very interesting thought process. And I'll tell you, the one of the things that I would really like to dwell upon, and that really made me think right now when you said it is was one, it was a very drastic change, and second, we also really didn't know, or we even don't know when the entire scenario of the COVID, the pandemic, the restrictions and everything is going to end. It's absolutely unprecedented, and that in itself brings a two-pronged challenge, that not only we have to be fast, but we also really have to be fast in a way that we are agile and scalable. That brings a entirely new set of challenges to our approach as well, right?
Correct.
So and again, kind of a segue, what how we are discussing, how did you approach, as as someone who would be responsible for the risk management and looking at the overall GRC part of things as well? What was your approach? Because usually the businesses are big businesses like Applied Materials or Intel or any other businesses, they have a lot of organizations. They have a lot of you can say enabling organizations, business units. The way they are structured are huge. So how was your approach to it to ensure that things are done effectively and optimally?
Yeah, I think broadly, I think that the leadership actually commitment, right, very early on the situation was one of the kind of a biggest thing that we actually saw, right? Our leaders actually got together first and then say, okay, how do we deal with it? It looks like something beyond actually our control, right? How do you respond to it? So I think if you look at generally, we do actually have BCP meeting, we do actually have a multiple actually meetings that happens, but I think in this situation, right, our leaders really thought it's necessary to actually have a daily BCP meeting, right? Can you
Hmm.
imagine? And in fact, at times we had twice a day meeting, right,
Oh,
to really know what's actually happening at a kind of a very dynamic level, because the changes were actually happening at a very, very dynamic level, right? That was the one thing that I can actually, say that happened. And the second thing, right, in situations like this, the power of communication, right,
hmm.
the power of communication, both upward communication and the downward actually communication, because we all actually working in a globe while people actually understand, but the risk levels were different at a different country, right? So that,
Yeah,
and then we all report to multiple countries and stuff like that, right? Making sure that both the upward communication and the downward communications is well kind of interconnected, so that there is no opportunity for people to actually misread it or mistake it, right? That was
yeah,
the second thing that I felt was very strong, right? That we did. I am sure most people have done the similar way, but I think I kind of passionately say it because that gave a power for us to say how we are actually transitioning this particular journey. The third thing that we quickly adopted is leveraging the technology, right? We do need a lot of information sharing, right, with the people. We do need a lot of actually information dissemination, right, information collection. We quickly
hmm,
got into the right people to say how do we leverage the technology for this situation, right? Be it a dashboard collection, right, be it a central repository of information capture, right, showing the trends of where what is actually happening, right? How many
hmm.
people really kind of moving what parts of the stuff, how many people are really working on a critical stuffs where they need is supported actually on, right? You know, that kind of a leveraging the technology, right, that really happened, right? And the other thing is we did realize that while we all have a responsiveness talked about a lot in our stuff, but this particular situation actually commanded, or rather demanded, us to be a little bit agile in responsiveness, right? Creating the special agile responsiveness team, right, to the people who are actually forefront of this particular journey, right?
Yeah,
That was another thing that we really kind of looked on. And we also kind of established 24 by 7 command center. A group of passionate people, right, came
hmm.
voluntarily, took the support of the leadership team. Our leader actually had a good vision to say, okay, this is a very critical actually aspect. We fully actually supported them to make sure that they kind of supported in the back end, and they were kind of actually leading all the needs that was actually there. And obviously, it also called for many corporate tie-ups, revamp, be it an insurance
Yeah,
program, be it a benefit programs, right? But how do we deal with actually our transport actually vendors? How do we make sure the safety protocols are actually measured? And each functions, frankly speaking, have came with a good ideas about how to mitigate this particular risk, right? Both from the safety, security, and business continuity perspective, right? And also, with the other thing that we did is also a single source of truth, right? Even though each functions actually had their own way of communicating it, but during this particular time we realized that a single source of truth is the most helpful information, right, sharing area. We kind of collaborated most of it to a kind of single source, so that people no need to worry, just go to that particular site, be it your revised benefit program, be it actually your safety measures, be it your how to work from actually office, be it the technology and tools actually available for you to operate effectively during this particular period.
Yeah.
We combined and put all of those things actually together, which really kind of made our journey a little bit more smoothen, right, to the
Yeah.
environment that we were right there. And it's got much appreciated actually as well by the employees and the stakeholders.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think you rightly said it as well, right? We would have done the same thing, because when I listen to you, it's something
Yeah.
that makes me realize that if I draw the parallels, the approach might be different. The ingrained method or everything, the on-ground method might be different. But as I said, if I draw the parallels, it's pretty much the same things
Yeah.
that Intel also did, because as you mentioned, the risk-based approach. Because whenever we are thinking, we were not just thinking that let's do it and then think what comes. It's more of the risk-based approach. We think about it. Okay, what can the outcome? What can this lead us to? And then
Yeah.
eventually, we kind of define things that way. And also, I think the most critical cog in this wheel, like doing everything and then eventually not being able to communicate. And also, the pandemic was a time where we had a lot of information coming in from all the sites, and people hold up in their holes. They just have internet and social media, right? So the
Yeah.
communication also becomes important, because there's a lot of misinformation that is going around and all those things as well. So I think that's a very, very important aspect to it as well, which often gets ignored in the mix of
Yeah.
things. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I fully
And
agree. That's why I said
yeah.
most people have actually done
Mhm.
it. The question is possibly who did it, who followed it, who kind of actually started off, right? I think that's just a question of timing. But I think
Yeah.
most people have responded so well to take care of the environmental needs for the situation.
Yeah. Great. And one more thing, and that kind of also gives me a point to bring in the second questions as well. Second question as well is you talked about technology, and if I look at technology, I understand that again COVID is a catalyst, yes, but even without COVID, technology was already changing this operation space. Even if we go like 5 years back or 10 years back, there were things or risk areas, focuses that didn't exist before. And suddenly they are in the forefront, maybe because of COVID, maybe not because of COVID, but they're already placed or poised to be something that would become as an emerging area of concern. So again, my question to you would be like the approach on handling this, and what exactly are the risks that you would foresee as one of the key players in the industry as well.
No, I think if we talk about the technology, right?
Hmm.
Definitely the technology is the way to go. I don't think so. It's
Yep.
not a question of a go or no go, right? It's a
Yep.
question of actually how do you make it right? Be it people talk about the cloud, people talk about artificial intelligence, people talk about an RPA, right? Most of it, right? I don't think so. These are all choices. It's a question of actually how do you make it right? To make it right, what risk parameters that we need to actually adopt, or what KPIs that we need to actually adopt to make sure that those journeys are actually successful, right? I
Hmm.
think
Yeah.
what COVID brought in my mind is basically an acceptance of technology, right? There were still a lot of people who were thinking technology as just an enabler, but the adoptability was still a kind of a more on a selling point than a kind of a really need point, right? In my view. But COVID brought some of those things to a kind of station where, you know what, yeah, this is the way to actually go. Right. So that acceptability, right, has come for some of this kind of stuff, right? The many people talked about the cloud for a last, I don't know for how many years, but maybe the
Yeah.
scale to move there was limited. But now I hear, even though I'm not a technologist, I do actually hear that the people move to the cloud much faster than actually what it is, right? Even the RPAs, right? Even the virtual work environment. Can we actually imagine we had a challenges in our supply chain to know how do we go and do a supplier audit, for example?
Mm.
A bright guy actually came and then said, so possibly we can do a supplier audit remotely using the technology. Look at, we never actually thought of it. We had an internal audit that actually happened through remotely, right? We never actually heard of earlier things like that. So in that place, it gives a platform for technology to move forward at a rapid pace. Having said
No.
that, the cautions are more important. How do we select the right technology, and what processes that we actually select to actually move there, right? To give our own some examples that I learned it is, even when we move certain things from a cloud, from a VPN to a cloud, I actually understand that how do you identify criticality of business application that goes into a cloud versus that stays actually in VPN, right? What security measures that we need to actually take it up? Whom do we engage as our service partners, right?
Mm. Yeah.
And when we're doing technology, obviously today there are multiple technologies that are there. Maybe there's a need of a particular function today or a particular service level today, but when we start integrating, once it becomes sustainable, and when we start actually integrating to a broader technology, is those technologies are sustainable, right? We do see in some areas that not being well captured. Probably that's something that we have to actually think through as we adopt
Mm.
newer technologies, right, and going forward and start interfacing and integrating with larger technology groups. That's the one in my view to watch out. The second one, I also think that the regulatory requirement may actually change because of the
Yeah.
geopolitical environment, right? How do we make sure that we kind of get ready for some of those things, right? And then proactively build for our sustainability, right?
Yeah.
Probably these are the two things that we have to actually think through. And of course, many of the people, many leaders are already working towards what is the future of work, what technology put in, and how do we, what results actually comes out of it, what risks that actually poses. I think it's just a work in progress, right? And it's a continuous
Yes.
journey that's actually evolving. I don't think so anyone really mastered it right now, but I'm sure most leaders actually have lots of ideas and a lot of thoughts, and we just need to follow through it depending on the company's philosophies as well.
Yep, that's an interesting take and interesting conversation as well, because my again, just like you said, right? Not necessarily there's only one right way. There may be multiple right ways, but it's more about how you do it and how you think about doing it. What is the thought process behind it? So, uh,
Correct.
and yes, Dwaka, thank you so much for for this chat and for taking this time today, for interacting with us and giving us your valuable insights. I really really enjoyed it. I had a lot of takeaway, and a lot of things for me to introspect as well, being in this domain, hearing it someone from experience. So thank you so much for this, and thank you so much for your time and insights, and please stay safe and take care for this.
Hey, thank you very much. The same actually here. It's great talking to you. And also, actually, I'm sure this conclave is really much needed, much critical for the future. Truly appreciate it. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. And thank you everyone. Stay safe.
Stay safe.